Back? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fabulous. Just change my name.
Oh, that's better. Yeah, I don't know who the other woman was.
Yeah, she's the lady that looks after my Twitter for me at the moment.
All right, cool.
Okay, so we are 2 participants. Shit, how do I go live? More live, right. Should we just do it? I'll do it. I'll go on live, set it up.
Yeah. Don't know how long it will take to go live.
It says broadcast Zoom webinar to Facebook Live. Show on your page on the Celebrant directory. Live with Michelle Taylor on the Celebrant directory. I'm going to go live, yeah? Shall I press
it? One more minute. Do it at 59. It's 58.
Okay. Breathe. Got to sweat some.
Take a drink. Don't choke. It's 59.
All right, I'm doing it.
Go for it.
Just hope it works.
Oh, one of the dogs is joining me now.
It's preparing the live stream to webinar. Setting up your webinar.
Oh, it's on Facebook. Webinars now streaming live on Facebook.
Are we there?
It's saying not on mine. It's saying webinar is now streaming live on Facebook.
Oh yeah, it says that on mine.
Oh, cool! How exciting!
Right, so we have to wait for some attendees. I can see that we are live. Guess I need to.
I'm scared about moving this out of the way to see my Facebook because I don't want to lose that.
Right, we've got some attendees.
Oh, now I've lost it. I'm gone. Move that over.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Lynn. Lovely to see you here. Going to give it a few minutes before we begin. Just let's see who's going to be joining us today. This is very exciting.
Oh, wow. Doesn't that look awesome on Facebook?
Who else is going to join us today? Let's see.
Minimise that page and move it over a bit.
Lynn says she's trying not to speak to the screen. She forgot that we can't see her.
Hi, Lynn.
Thanks for joining us, Lynn. Right, we'll just wait a few more minutes, see who comes along to join us. Louisa's here. Hi, Katie.
Hello. This is so weird seeing us on two screens. One is stalling because it's not quite live and the other one's completely live. It's weird. It's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Hello, hi. Oh, there's Sharon.
Hi, Sharon. Hi, Janita.
Lovely to have you all here. Well, we'll get started anyway because we are now at 8:01. I want to say a big thank you to everyone for joining us today. And I look forward to having some more people come along as we go. I'm Jennifer, as most of you know. I'm the founder of the Celebrant Directory. We launched, as most of you know out there, a month ago. We've had an amazing response to the directory. We set it up primarily as a place for celebrants to have a dedicated resource to advertise and market themselves with some really lovely looking profiles, reviews, videos, images, and also a place for couples and families to go to find their perfect celebrant. A dedicated location that's full of ideas, inspiration, and part of the directory is a place for people to go to find out about celebrants, to find out about what we do, how we do the things that we do for ceremonies, how we put them together, and what the restrictions are, what you can actually do with a celebrant. And there aren't many restrictions, are there, Michelle?
No.
So I've been a celebrant for 7 years, and I love what I do. I'm passionate, and most of the celebrants out there, if not all celebrants, are just as passionate as myself about the work that we do, because it's exciting, it's amazing, and we love it. So today is our very first Facebook Live interview. And this will be taking place every month on the last Thursday of every month with a real life celebrant.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm alive.
And today our celebrant is the amazingly wonderful Michelle Taylor.
Hi everybody.
So should we begin? Michelle, would you like to introduce yourself? Let us know how long you've been in the business for, what you were doing before, and what you love about it.
Yeah, hi everybody again. So as Jen says, I'm Michelle. I've been a celebrant for just over 6 years now, having trained with the FPC in 2011 under the lovely Terry Shanks. For the first 4 years, I was part-time because I was a serving police officer, and I retired from that role exactly 2 years ago. So the last 2 years I've been completely full-time as a celebrant. And I only do weddings and the family stuff, but it is just the best job in the world. I've gone from dealing with anything you can imagine in the police force to going to people's weddings every weekend. It's absolutely amazing. I just love, as Jen says, I'm just so passionate. I just love celebrating love in all of its glory, and I can't think of a better job in the world.
Yeah, here. I'm sure we all celebrants out there agree. So we're going to dive into some questions, some interview questions, and if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to ask using the feed, and we will get to those questions. So we'll start off with what is your very favourite, or your favourite part of a ceremony? Of all the different elements you've got the kiss, you've got the readings, the poems, or you've got the vows, what is your favourite part?
For me, that's very easy to answer. My favourite part is the first look. I love it. Before I actually start the ceremony, I always go out and see my bride and make sure that she's calm and she's breathing and she's ready to go. And I start my ceremony before I start my housekeeping, I'm walking back up the aisle, looking directly at the groom and all of my guests and saying, I love what I do. The best part for me is I get to see the bride before everybody else does. Nobody's like, oh, where is she? And then just watching the groom's face as his wife to be enters the room. I've had tears, I've had grins bigger than a Cheshire cat. It's just absolutely amazing. And watching the little bridesmaids come in and the flower girls and things like that, and all the little things that they do. And if I'm going to cry, it'd be that part of the ceremony, because I'm just looking at their reactions and it's like, breathe. But so yeah, completely my favourite part.
It's amazing that is the first, that's the part that you don't even do, right?
Yeah.
You stand there, but that is your favourite part, even though you're not actually working. Well, you are working, but you're not actually reading anything at that point.
But I have started working because I'm getting the crowd going. I said, I've seen the bride.
Yeah.
Wait till you see her. She's absolutely amazing. So I've started the anticipation and the build up, and it's the way that I do it. Everybody's really excited. Well, what's going to come next then? Because we've never had anybody say that to us.
Yeah.
What's going to come next? Boom, we're in.
So what happens with first looks when they're same-sex couples? Is it a similar thing, or do you find that same-sex couples walk down the aisle together?
Yeah, the same-sex couples that I've had the privilege of conducting ceremonies for have tended to actually enter together. I haven't had anybody do the first look per se. I think the closest I got was a couple of ladies earlier this summer. They'd actually seen each other before the ceremony, and one was at the front waiting for her wife with her mother, and the second lady entered with her mother, and we did first kiss, last kiss with those two. So that's the closest I've got to the actual first look, but they'd actually already seen each other, and it was just eye contact from start to finish, grinning as they walked towards each other. So that was brilliant. But most of my same-sex couples do actually tend to come in together. So it's slightly different.
Watching. Yeah, if there's any celebrants watching, it'd be really interesting to hear your experiences. So please comment your experiences with same-sex couples, if there is any different variations that you've had. Brilliant. So what prep goes into your weddings? What prep on the day itself goes into your weddings? Let's start with.
On the day itself, making sure I've actually got the ceremony with me is always a good one, because I have made that mistake once where I was in such a tears, having got the book out to read it just before I left the house, and I got to the venue, luckily only half an hour away, to say, where's my book? And my son brought it with me. So my prep on the day is to make sure that everything is charged, I have all of the equipment that I require, and I'm there in plenty of time. So, and when I actually get there, I then do some more prep once I'm actually there. But making sure that I'm ready, I'm calm, nothing's going to distract me from what I actually need to do in the next few hours. So, and part of my prep for my day is quite an interesting one. Some ladies and gents like to have the hair done before, make sure they've got the hair cut. For me, it's having my nails done. If my nails aren't done, I feel naked. So as long as my nails done, I'm ready to rock and roll.
Are they done now?
Yeah. Oh, yes, they're done now.
Especially for the interview.
Yes.
And prior to that, so there's obviously a huge amount that goes into being a celebrant and to offering celebrant services to couples. It starts all the way from the beginning, from a consultation, all the way up to that actual arrival on the day.
Yeah.
In general, what kind of prep do you do from initial consultation through to the day?
Very, very first thing for me is listen. Tell me what you have planned for your ceremony and your day.
Yeah.
Okay? Tell me where I fit into that. Tell me how we're going to achieve this. So I ask them some questions, open questions. I'm ex-police officer, I want to know why, when, why, how, and all that lot. So it's always the open questions. But I want to listen to their story, and I want to honour their story. And the only way I can honour their story properly is knowing their story. So that's the very first bit of prep that goes into it. We all work completely differently. I have a questionnaire that I fill in with them, so my initial consultation questionnaire, to make sure I've got all those bits down that I need. So we're talking for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I will leave them with a fuller questionnaire, which will ask all of my police head officer questions. I want to know all the facts.
Not convictions, though.
What, sorry?
You don't want to list their convictions, do you?
I don't want to list their convictions, but I want to know everything. I'm so nosy. I want to know how they met, where they met, what the proposal was like. Because I want to know from their stories that they're telling me, what can I turn into part of their ceremony story. You don't want to know every single little thing to turn into the ceremony, but everybody does, picks out the relevant bits that they think are going to be funny or quirky or whatever. And for me, it's normally how they met, what the first date was like. Some people are absolutely brilliant with their recall and can tell me exactly what they ate and where they went. Some people say, oh, we met sometime and we did this, but I can't really remember. And the proposal, especially if it's something really different or just really sweet. So it's all about getting that information from them, and it's the best way of getting it. Some people don't do it by questionnaire, but I find for me, the couples actually enjoy sitting down together and going through it, and the feedback I get from that is we actually really did enjoy that because it's made us talk to each other.
Definitely. And I find that, you know, with another type of ceremony, a registrar or maybe even a church, you know, that element there can be missed, you know, sitting down, actually discussing what it is that you love about each other, why you actually want to have a ceremony together, why you're getting married, you know, all those lovely things that, you know, sometimes I find that grooms are a bit like, oh, I'm not really sure about sharing my feelings. But once they start to get into it, they actually really enjoy it.
Yeah, and some of the groom stories actually are far better than the brides, but until they actually start the process, you wouldn't know that. Because why are we doing it like this? Well, I'm doing it because she wants me to do it, but they start talking and you get some really good things that get them, this is why we want to be together, this is why we're having the ceremony the way we want to have the ceremony. So that is all part of your prep. For me, I love to have my face-to-face meetings or my Skype meetings. I have very few couples that actually book me from just a telephone call. If they do, it's because they know they're going to book me or they've seen me in action. But I like to know that they get me and I get them. There's nothing worse than working with somebody just for the money and not actually getting their little quirks and them getting my little quirks. Anybody that works with me knows I'm slightly unhinged and the biggest Harry Potter fan, and if I can get Harry Potter into a ceremony anywhere, I will do it.
So in general, how long does it take from initial consultation to getting a ceremony script over to the couple?
It obviously very much depends on how far in advance I'm booked. I have got weddings booked into 2019. So I booked a couple the other day who are getting married in July next year. They've got the questionnaire. I've told them you can start filling it in now, but I don't actually want it back till about April, May. And then that's when I start the real big build-up of starting to write their ceremony, and we'll exchange emails, we'll have another meeting, we'll then also book in when we're going to do the practice, because to me that is very important to have the practice. And I get intense with them for about 2 to 3 months before that, but in the meantime, we'll have emails, we'll have phone calls, we'll have texts, and they always get the obligatory Christmas card off me, just say, hey, I'm still alive. Looking forward to your ceremony next year. And I just feel that little touch.
The personal touch is amazing, and that's what every celebrant brings to a ceremony.
Absolutely.
Just have a look at a couple of people who have joined and a couple of comments. So, hi everybody. Hi Ricky, Charlotte, lovely to see you. Hi Samantha and Claudia and Belinda. Let's have a look at some of the comments. So, face-to-face meetings, Charlotte agrees, definitely best part of the job, going to face-to-face meetings. Claudia is saying that there is a new trend in the US for bride and grooms to do their first look. I have seen that, and there are first look photographers too that I have seen who do specific photography for those first looks. And I believe that it doesn't just necessarily have to be just before the ceremony. It can be in private the day before or something like that, which makes it quite interesting. It does make the walk down the aisle less dramatic, yes. I agree, and it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because that walk down the aisle, seeing the groom or your partner, whoever you're marrying at the time, or having your wedding ceremony with, it's that point, isn't it, when they turn around and they see you, that first look, but it's in front of everybody else. So it's getting balance or whatever you think is suits you, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Suiting your style.
Yeah.
Samantha Kelsey, what did you say? Oh, good evening. And forgetting your script, or even having the wrong one. Yes. Definitely. The biggest fear of a celebrant, having the wrong one. Sharon is asking, can you tell us how you got your first wedding and what it was like? So Sharon's used to funerals, but has only done her wedding training. So what's it like for a celebrant when you have your first ceremony? Because obviously, do you tell, do you go to couples and say, right, this is the first one, or do you just go into it? Because obviously all of us as celebrants have either done training or have a background in public speaking, creative writing. So how do you approach your first wedding?
So my very first ceremony happened to be a vow renewal, and it happened exactly 12 months after I'd done my training. I was getting a bit disillusioned, thinking I'm never going to get any work, but I was all right because I had obviously my police work to fall back on. And this lovely couple, who I'm still friends with now, booked me for the vow renewal. They didn't know, well, they might have guessed it was my first one, but I didn't tell them. What I did do was charge them less. They didn't know how much I should have been charged or whatever, but I charged them about half what I subsequently started charging later that year. for my own peace of mind, in case I made a complete mess of it. So I think the first two ceremonies I offered at very much a cheaper rate, until I got my confidence. But I've evolved over the last, say, certainly 6 years with the way I approach my ceremonies, the questionnaires, my contracts are completely different to what they were 6 years ago, because I've learned from other people's mistakes, and some of the horror stories in just the wedding industry, full stop. Make sure you dot the I's and cross the T's as much as you possibly can. So yes, the first one is very, very scary. I've never done a funeral. I'm not funeral trained. I would equate somebody that's just done funerals to going into weddings. If I tried to go and do a funeral, I wouldn't have a clue what I was doing, but I'm not trained, so I couldn't blag my way through it. But if you are used to public speaking, it doesn't matter whether it's on the, on the funeral side or the wedding or the family side. I think you can actually put the persona on as like, you are a swan. The feet might be paddling, but you're completely calm on the surface. If you can deal with the public on a funeral, you can deal with the public at a wedding. I think it's an emotional scenario again, but I think it's a much nicer emotional scenario than a funeral.
And I think what it is it's meeting that couple before, getting to know them, having that relationship with them. So when you turn up to officiate that wedding, you know them already, so you're comfortable with them. And you're friendly with them. I did see a quote on Instagram on another Celebrant's page saying, and it was a testimonial from a couple saying, I just had my wedding officiated by a friend. They weren't a friend before, but they are a friend now because they've gone through that journey with them, that wedding journey, which is the most amazing part of being a celebrant.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So you don't always get that relationship with a grieving family, but you certainly are able to build a relationship with the wedding or the family side, because the relationship tends to be a lot longer, over, say, a longer period of time.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So let's start with rehearsals. So it's quite interesting that 17 Celebrant Services just asked about a rehearsal. That was one of the next questions I was going to ask you. Do you do rehearsals for couples? Do you charge a fee for rehearsal? What happens during the rehearsals?
Right, so rehearsals, I do rehearsals for weddings and commitment ceremonies, and I charge accordingly. I don't do rehearsals for anything else. So if it's a vow renewal, a naming ceremony or anything else, there's no rehearsal. So they are cheaper than a wedding or a commitment ceremony. The same amount of work goes into developing the ceremony, but neither the couples or the families or I feel that we need to actually, how do you rehearse a baby name? You never know what the baby's going to do. But and the vow renewals, the couples have been married before. If they're local, I'll still go and have a look at the venue with them, and we'll have a chat and say, well, we're going to be in this room, or we're going to be standing here and doing this, that and the other, but I don't do a rehearsal as I would do for a wedding. I think the nerves at a wedding and a commitment ceremony are probably far more than they would be with a naming or a vow renewal, because vow renewals, the couples have normally gone through it before.
True. Do you do rehearsals a lot for weddings? Is it
every single wedding? Every single wedding. Yeah, I do every single wedding. The furthest afield I've personally been to date is London. And I still went the day before and did the rehearsal, and it was the far side of London for me because I'm in Essex, so we're talking 2.5, 3 hours away, and I just stopped in a hotel close by.
Are there any other
they paid for the hotel.
Are there any other celebrants out there that do rehearsals? I find the majority of the time from my celebrant services, I don't really do many rehearsals. I find that I would go and see the bride in the morning, go and see the groom as well once I get there, or same-sex couples, same thing, and just go and meet both of them and talk them through what side of the aisle to walk down, that kind of thing. But I find the majority of the time I don't do rehearsals. That's not through choice, that's through the couple's choice. Louisa, always do rehearsals. Elizabeth, always does a rehearsal for her weddings. That's great to see. And I've also seen a really lovely point from Lynn, who says she finds she gets separation anxiety after finishing the ceremony.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, especially with the ones that you have really, really bonded with, and they become friends on Facebook, and it's lovely to see where their lives are going. And every single one of them that knows my Harry Potter obsession, which is 99.5% of my couples, they keep pinning me in Harry Potter posts, saw this and thought of you, and it's like, okay, is that obvious then?
Amazing.
And they know they can just get away with it.
Claudia, rehearsals a must, yeah, especially if it's a big party. I agree, Charlotte, if there's some symbolic elements in there, especially things like hand fastings or unity candles. People, couples may not have seen it before, but they really love the idea and they love it included in their ceremony. But if you haven't rehearsed it before, I think especially hand fastings, if you don't rehearse it, it could be a little awkward there at the front. Katie, yeah, she's done rehearsals in the past, but now only include in-person rehearsals on Friday and Saturday weddings. That's great. I had my first couple had a baby last week. It's lovely to share that excitement. That's another amazing thing about being a celebrant, is it doesn't just stop at weddings.
No.
Go through to baby names. That relationship starts with a baby naming or a wedding or whatever way around couples do it and families do it. But it starts from something and moves and can progress into a lovely going forward relationship. Do you find that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I did a naming ceremony the other week. Forgive me if they are actually watching this, but I'm trying to persuade them to get married. I do weddings as well. Yeah, we know. So you know where I am.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So on the day itself, what time do you typically arrive at the venue?
I always aim to be there at least an hour before the ceremony. Depending on where the ceremony is, sometimes it will be even earlier than that. If it's anybody that knows Essex and knows the A12, knows that it's 99% of the time at Gridlock, so I'm always going to be there at least an hour and a half, 2 hours before, so I know I've got there. And then that gives me time to just find my zen, my inner zone, and check on any last minute issues, make sure I've got the right folder, and calm the groom down, go and have a chat with the bride and the bridesmaids, and just meet the families, because albeit I might have done the practice the day before, not necessarily met other members of the family. So it just gives me time just to say hi to people, mill around a bit, get a quick drink, set up my table, and talk to the photographer if they haven't been at the practice, videographer, any other supplier that hasn't been at the practice, and just say, right, okay, let's rock and roll, we're ready to go. So yeah.
Do you ensure that the music's set up, or is that something usually the venue deals with? Do you take any equipment with you, like a PA
yes,
system?
I would say probably about 85 to 90% of the time it's me providing the music. So I put the couple's choices onto my iPod. I always take, even if the venue provided music, because I have had one venue where everything collapsed and gave up, and luckily I had the backup of having my own portable amp. So I always have that with me. I've got my iPod with me. Sometimes staff at the venue will control the music for me. Sometimes I get one of the ushers or a trusted member of the family, also not the family, but a trusted member of the wedding party to be in control of the music for me. And then I always say to them, and the couple says, well, then if it goes wrong, I can blame them, you can't blame me. And everybody just finds that quite funny the way I say it as well. But it works for me, rather than trying to find that I'm looking at my book and then trying to sort my music out as well. It flows much nicer if I've got a third party doing it for me. And it tends to be the venue, to be fair, most of the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have mics, battery operated, mains operated if required. I've only really started to use them a lot this year because my weddings have started to get bigger, and more outdoors. Well, I say most of them are outdoors anyway, but I think the attendance is getting bigger, and the distance as well has changed between where we're standing and where everybody else is standing. So I am finding that I'm using my mics more and more this year. But I've gone for 4.5 years with hardly ever using them.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Sometimes having a handheld mic kind of hinders holding everything as well.
Yeah.
So it's nice to take your own PA system or a clip microphone.
Yeah, I've got the clip. I've got the Madonna one. I find the clip is better than the Madonna one, because the Madonna one's always slipping, especially if my hair's like this. It's like, okay, how do I put it?
Let's have a look at a couple of the comments. So 1 hour before, Lou says, Samantha, 1 hour before, time to change, breathe, rehearse. Yeah, change, especially if it's a long journey and you've got your outfit on, you don't want any creases or anything like that.
Yeah.
Totally agree with getting someone else to do the music. Charlotte says, too many things to go on, too many things to focus on. Yeah, for sure. And usually each venue, they will look after the music for you, but I think a celebrant's role is just to make sure that they've got the right choices at the right times and make sure they know when to press the button and when to give them the cue to press the button at the end, because there have been many ceremonies I've attended when you're giving them the cue and they're kind of too busy.
Yeah, they're looking the other way and I'm standing there going, like this, look at me.
Brilliant. Claudia, other wedding professionals sometimes seem surprised when I arrive 1 to 2 hours early. They've worked with celebrants who run, 230 minutes before the ceremony. I always arrive early too. I think majority of celebrants arrive at least an hour before. That's another benefit of having a celebrant-led ceremony, is because we are there. We are then there to make sure every element of your ceremony is sorted, is ready. We are there then at the front for when you're ready to walk down. And you know that we're there, you know who we are, you've met us before, and you know that we're going to, do a ceremony that suits your personality and style.
I've had couples forget things, like they've left the candles at home, or they've forgotten an important piece of whatever for the wedding that they're supposed to be bringing, and I now my wedding kit now fills the boot. So everything from literally
like a doctor's bag carrying around with you. I've
got 2 big boxes, plastic boxes full of kit, from candles through to a needle and thread. One wedding I did, they were doing hand fasting and they'd literally gone and got 3 spools of ribbon. And I went, here you go, here's the ribbon. I was like, okay, I've got scissors in the car, I'm all right. So I think I've covered, touch wood, most eventualities.
Well, be prepared. That's what it's all about too. We take control of the ceremony.
And we are the ones that have to take control of it, because they're too nervous. So we are, like I say, the swan, we might be panicking a bit, thinking, with our feet going, but they're never going to know that.
No. So, Belinda, sandwiches for the groom, great idea. Sharon.
Yes, because they never eat. I have bought the groom. I've done it twice. I've bought the groom a sandwich once because he hadn't eaten, and the bride and her bridesmaids, I brought them all food because they hadn't eaten, and I said, "Well, I'm hungry. I'm buying a sandwich. I'm buying you one as well." Yeah,
you do forget on your wedding day to eat and drink, unless it's Prosecco, obviously, in the morning. Not for the celebrant, obviously for the bride. Lynn, perhaps we could put together a ceremony kit list. Yeah, great idea. Why not? Let's put something together.
It's endless. We can start you off.
Definitely, that's a great idea. Kirstine is actually my sister. Yes, one day you will get married and I will be your celebrant.
No, she won't. I'll do it.
All right.
Harry Potter theme.
Whiskey for the groom, Lou. Yeah. I helped to finish a bottle for him. It was funny, a wedding that I did last week. I usually, need a little soft drink after a ceremony, and they didn't have any soft drinks. They only had cider or Prosecco. So obviously I should have Prosecco. But talking about that, talking about after the ceremony, what actually happens with the celebrant? Do you stay on after the ceremony? Do you celebrate with the couple? What's kind of the typical thing? I know in the US and Australia, it's very typical for celebrants and officiants to be invited to the after party. Is that something that we do here in the UK?
It's very dependent on the couple and who I'm working with, because my husband's a wedding photographer. If we are working together, I finish the ceremony and I then become his voice-activated light stand. He loves it. I'm not so sure. But what that does enable me to do is to actually stay and enjoy the part. Well, I say enjoy the party, I'm still working. But I get to see what's happening when the groom and the bride are relaxed and the family's relaxed. And that's when I get a lot of feedback from the guests. Or, we've never seen one like that before. Oh my God, how do you do this job? Give me your card, I want to do it. I'm thinking, no, you live too close. But yeah, so you get to have and there was one that we did together in the summer, which was the most perfect quintessential summer English evening, when I was marrying a Scotsman to a Welsh woman. But it was absolutely perfect, and they had me up doing the ceilidh, and it was absolutely fantastic. So sometimes I do get to stay and celebrate. It tends to be either when I've done ceremonies for actual friends, people I've known for years and years and years, or if I'm staying to help my husband. Most of the time I'll mill around for an hour, up to an hour, especially if they want to carry on to use my portable amp to play some music through, because we're outdoors and they haven't got anything till the band comes on later. I'm staying and have a drink. I very, very rarely rush off. There's only been a couple of times when I have had to rush off. But that's not normal, and that's because something else has been going on.
Typically, do you book one ceremony a day, or do you have a couple of ceremonies a day? What's kind of your typical?
Typically, it is only one ceremony a day, but occasionally, if the stars align and they are very close in distance and quite far apart in time, I will do more than one ceremony. But I always try and plan it that I still get that hour with my couples, so I'm still not rushing off. I mean, there has been a couple of occasions when I have had to go, but that has been other things going on in life that we've been running late, and I'm thinking I really just need to go. But that's life getting in the way rather than somebody else's wedding.
And another huge benefit of having a celebrant is that we give the flexibility to couples, so that if there is any reason why they are late or delayed, the hair didn't go right even, or if it's drizzly outside and they want to wait half an hour because they would still like their wedding outside, having a celebrant means that you can have that flexibility, because you would have already agreed that with the couple, and they would also be comfortable enough to be able to ask you because they know you. Yeah,
it happened earlier this year actually. I don't know if Glenn Mays is on here or not, but he was Toastmaster because he's also a Toastmaster, and I was celebrant, and the ceremony should have started at 2:00. Literally just as the bride was ready to come out, the heavens opened, but they were also doing the legals that day, and it was getting closer and closer to the time when they had to go off and do the legal ceremony, and I just went, forget me, go and do the legals, I'll still be here. And I stayed, and we didn't get going till about 4:00. So I didn't have anywhere else to go that day. There was other stuff going on, but I'm thinking, it doesn't bother me what time I leave here. I know the registrar hasn't got that flexibility, but I have. So they still got a slightly different ceremony because we ended up having to do it indoors, so it became a bit hasty, but it's thinking on your feet, and I had the flexibility because I didn't have to rush off that you can have an extra 2 hours of my time. It's no skin off my nose, and like you said, that is the beauty of using a celebrant.
Any celebrants out there? What's the longest you've had to wait for a couple? What's the longest that you're happy to wait for a couple? As Michelle pointed out, 4 or 5 hours, right? Was it 4 or 5 hours before for a couple?
No, a couple of hours.
A couple of hours, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of hours, yeah.
Let's have a look at a couple of questions or the comments. So, I hang around till comfortable, grab a photo with the bride and groom. Twice, Lynn has been asked to stay for the meal.
Yeah.
Lovely. Bonus. Louisa, to be fair, been invited to quite a few of the weddings I've done this year. It varies, sometimes for the meal or sometimes for the evening. Depends what relationship you have, which is another amazing benefit of being a celebrant. Back, what we said before, all about having that relationship and becoming, part of their wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Joy, my first wedding, June 2018. I presumed I had to provide all of the symbolic things. Do you ask your bridal people to provide those things? Do you ask the couples to provide their elements?
Yeah, I provide nothing because I don't want to get it wrong. I tell them where I've sourced things. I mean, I obviously have things that I can show them, and I tell them where I source them from, but so that I don't get get it wrong and for them to turn around and say, oh no, we're not paying you. You've decided what symbolic elements you want.
Yeah.
You go and source it. I will have a backup candle. I will have my backup hand fasting cords. Might not be the colours that they want, but I've got my backup. But no, I don't. I personally don't provide anything. I know other people do, and they will charge accordingly. But I don't want to go down that route.
Do you print up the readings and the vows and things?
Yes, yeah. The readings are printed, the vows are printed, their copies printed, and I bind it and put it in a nice presentation box. And then obviously I use a folder. I don't trust electronics. I wouldn't want to be using a Kindle or an iPad and for that to fail. So I like paper, and I print it in such a way that it's double 16 font, double space, color coded.
Yeah.
And that's my safety net. I'm happy.
Yeah, sure. And we did have a discussion on a Celebrant forum not long ago about the use of paper versus electronic. And it was quite interesting that I think there was a majority of people who still use, the traditional paper and folder, but a huge amount of people a huge amount of celebrants that go along now with their tablets or their iPads and officiate ceremonies. And I see a huge amount now on Instagram of Australian celebrants and American celebrants using tablets. So it's definitely the way to go forward. But I think the majority of celebrants would agree with me that if they do use tablets, then they always have their backup copy as well.
Backup, yeah. I mean, I have the tablet as the backup. Or my phone as the backup, because I save everything into the cloud. So if I ever did do the faux pas of not having my folder again, I know I've still got the ceremony printed out on my phone.
Yeah,
it'd be very small, but I do have a backup copy.
Yeah, for sure. So big question for you, which is, hi Gaynor, she's arrived. Samantha says in her contract, she says that they must provide their own keepsake materials. Weddings in the US are different. Couples don't meet their registrar for the legal bits. Claudia says most weddings are pretty tightly scheduled with the photographer, caterers. I've only had to wait when it's a small wedding. It's really interesting to get the perspective as well. So thanks, Claudia, of US weddings, Australian weddings. Weddings all over the world are completely different, but we all are together as celebrants and officiants. So it's great to hear different perspectives. But my big question for you, Michelle, is whether you can answer this or not, I don't know. But what is a typical ceremony like? Are there typical ceremonies?
There isn't such a thing.
Good answer.
I do follow a format which works for me. Obviously, the housekeeper, the introductions, and symbolic elements, but there is no such thing as a typical ceremony, because you don't know what's going to happen at any given moment. So I think you've got to prepare for every eventuality within your prep. Typically, a ceremony for me lasts anywhere between 20 minutes and half an hour. I have had much shorter ones, and I have had, I say much longer, 40 minutes. So those are the typicals. Other typicals are, there's a ring exchange and there's a vow exchange. Sometimes 2 rings, sometimes 1 ring. 95% of the time, probably 2 rings. Those again are typicals. But obviously everybody's story is different. Everybody's story is unique. The readings, I will get some readings the same. I will get some music the same, but that's quite rare. So we'll have some readings, we'll have some music, we'll have live music, we'll have recorded music. The symbolic elements are always going to be different. The order of the symbolic elements will be different. So I don't think you can say there is a stereotypical ceremony, unless you're cutting and pasting and doing the same ceremony for everybody. And I don't know many celebrants worth their salt that do. Well, I know no celebrants worth their salt that do that. So we are writing.
It's all about. The basic premise of a celebrant is to offer personalised, unique ceremonies. Every ceremony is different. Even if it's in the same hotel or in the same venue, that ceremony will be unique to that couple. Correct?
Yeah. So you've got typical elements, you've got similar elements, but I don't think you can ever say what's a typical ceremony, personally.
Talking about length of ceremony, I know Louisa had a ceremony recently.
So over now, wasn't it, Lou?
Was it 10 symbolic elements to that ceremony? It'd be interesting if you can comment below, Lou, and let us know how many it was and how long it actually lasted, because it's a really interesting story. But again, I think that's quite unique. I think most couples stick to 1 or 2 symbolic additions, so a hand fasting or a unity candle or a sand ceremony. Some of these things that we might discuss in more detail in future. It's 5 meetings, but in general, it's 25 minutes, half an hour ceremony. One symbolic or nothing at all. Some couples don't even like to have readings or poems. They like straight, simple services, but would still like a celebrant.
The personal. It's the telling the story is the bit that really, really personalises it. And I always say to them, the more information you give me, the more I can say.
Yeah.
And when I feel they haven't given me enough information, when I send their first draft back, I've got red written on it. I'm like a school teacher. I'm saying, I want more information about this bit because this is really interesting in part of your story. I want to expand on it. If you don't want me to expand on it, fine, tell me that you don't want me to. But I think this will grab your guests. They might have heard it, but they haven't heard my take on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's lovely when there are a few funny things to add into a ceremony. And I always find myself, when I do ceremonies, that if there's some nice humour in there, it really makes the atmosphere feel lovely. And everybody enjoys the ceremony. They listen to the words. They want to know more about that couple and about their experience. Rather than having something quite formal, where often people can maybe drift off a little bit. So that's, again, one of the major benefits of having a celebrant is for that personalisation and kind of getting the couple.
I always warn my couples there will be some ad-libbing. I just say, I don't know where it's going to come, but something will suddenly come to me halfway through your ceremony and I'm going to say it.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes let my mouth run away, but that's the beauty. They're pre-warned when they've met me that they know there's going to be something.
And that's the beauty of it. Yeah. So what's Louisa say? 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours for a wedding ceremony. Wow. Yeah. But there were so many elements into that ceremony. So 10 symbolic ceremonies, plus a few extras, as well as blending it together with their story and vows. Katie Keane says she's had an hour plus long wedding this summer with 5 readings, including the father of the groom's speech, which went on for a good 10 minutes in 30-degree heat. Wow, amazing.
I think the most readings I've had, the bride wanted to put 8 readings in. And this is fine. Who's reading them? You are. Okay, can we cut that down then? Because otherwise I'm going to lose my voice. She went, oh yeah, fair enough. So I got it down to 5. Yeah. And I've had another one where I've had 5 readings. And it was, everybody was being read by a different person. And that one was absolutely amazing because we had one to literally open the ceremony and one to close the ceremony, which I've never done before. Before even me do my introductions, we had one to open the ceremony. Lovely. And it was perfect because the 2 poems just topped and tailed the ceremony perfectly. And it's like, I like that.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll suggest things, they'll suggest things, we meet in the middle, and it just creates magic. It's brilliant.
So to wrap things up, tell me how you end a ceremony. So what happens at the end of a ceremony? Do celebrants still do certificate signings? Do you do presentation copies? Is there any kind of rituals you go through at the end of every ceremony?
I tend to, not all my couples want a certificate. Some say, no, we're quite happy, we've done the legal certificate. Other people do want it. I would say I'm probably about 50-50 wanting it, not wanting it. I don't tend to do my certificates at the end. I don't know where other people put them in. I'll do my certificate after the ring and the vows.
Okay.
Or the vows and the rings, whichever way around I'm doing it. And then I do the certificate there. And then I close with my symbolic element and my closing speech. And the very last thing, if we're doing a broom jump, that's the last thing before they kiss and walk down the aisle. If we're not doing a broom jump, I close with what other symbolic element and the introduction of the happy couple, Mr. and Mrs., Mr. and Mr., whatever they want to be called. I will introduce them as that. And I have sworn before because that's what they wanted me to say. And I went, are you sure? And they went, yes, we are. And I went, okay. And I did warn everybody, I'm about to swear, but I've got to go with it because this is what they want me to do. And I did it. So I will introduce them as to what they want to be introduced as. Yeah. So let's say my certificate signing comes earlier in the ceremony if I'm going to do it. The very last thing for me is sharing the kiss, walking back down the aisle, everybody up, clapping, singing, shouting, dancing, whatever we decide we're going to end it with.
Brilliant. Yeah. Exactly. So let's have a look. Any more comments? So what were the 10 elements Sharon's asking and Louise is sharing? Yeah. Lovely to have you all here tonight. It is now 10 to 9 and I think we should wrap it up. It's been an amazing interview. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being here with us and for sharing all of your experiences as an amazing celebrant.
Thank you.
And I hope you all join again next month for our next Facebook Live. This live recording will be shared on Facebook to be viewed again. And we will see you again next month. If you have any other questions, still pop them on and we will reply. Michelle and I can be on there replying to your questions, celebrants or couples. Please ask away.
Yeah, I did notice a question earlier on, which I know we need to reply to, but I can't remember what the question was. So we'll scroll through that and reply later.
Yeah. We'll reply to them later, and we hope to see you all next week. Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Don't forget Celebrant Hour on Twitter.
Don't forget to join us, Celebrant Hour, all about networking for the celebrants out there. It will be, it's a fantastic networking chit-chat event on Twitter. So yeah, brilliant. We will see you next month. And thanks again, Michelle.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.